What is up, dudes and dudettes? This is your guy Sugi JRPG here, and today we're going to be continuing with these Final Fantasy mod lists again, and this time around we're going to be focusing on 10 and 10.2, more on 10 because it just fundamentally has a lot more mods and interest in general. And I do want to add that there's a lot of excellent mods outside of this list as well, which is not in any particular order, FYI. So definitely go check out Nexus mods in case you're especially looking into a lot of like different types of texture mods available out there. But let's get started with my top 5. As for number 5, we have the Untitled Project X, which is a form of core mod which will be essential for all the other mods on this video, and anything you will be installing in terms of like texture packs, they all will be needing the Untitled Project X. So make sure you're going to be installing this first before anything else. Now, this comes along with a wide range of different settings for the game, like changing the resolutions, the full screens, and all that type of jazz. But it comes along with a lot of like interesting other elements as well. One thing is actually being able to change the language for Japanese, and all the games have their specific configuration, so you can have different settings for X2 as you have for X, for example. The 3 things you're going to be able to change is the voice for the dialogue, then there's the sound effects, and these are the things that the characters say basically on battle, and then there is the full motion video, so the FMV will also have different audio tracks. So for example, you're able to have English audio on the FMVs, but when it actually comes to the battle, it's Japanese, and then when it comes to the normal dialogue, it's also Japanese. Pay in mind that the Japanese audio is not like perfectly one-to-one synced like it is in a lot of the other Final Fantasy games, and that was probably the main reason why they didn't include this on the main game. I mean, the files are there for the Japanese audio, but fundamentally, like, it is just not available for there in the settings. And I have to say, I do highly prefer the English voice cast for this game versus a Japanese one. But you know, in case you want to like spice up your gaming experience and experience it in different type of way, definitely try out the Japanese language. This is not only a functionality that comes along with this. I already talked about the resolution changes. You're able to do custom game map buttons as well, so in case you want to run a bit of a different type of config, you have that types of ability, the full screen mode. Then there's a ability to basically skip out the cutscenes. This is only for FFX, not for X2. And then there's obviously these types of, you know, things that will give you a bit of power up. So one is that you're able to basically turn off all the random encounters. That's a pretty, you know, neat thing. Then there's auto battle, which is great for grinding. So in case you want to leave your computer open and speed up and just grind some experience, this is something you can do. And then there's obviously the speed boost, which will make basically the moving and cutscenes basically faster than normal. So there's a lot of these quality of life, different types of things that this mod comes along with. There's a long list of these things that it basically does: cursor management, performance fixes, texture dumping and injection, and those are obviously the mod related other things. This is a very nice thing as a standalone mod, but let's move on. As for number 4, we have the Titus HD Texture in 8K. There's also a 4K version for those people who have a bit more lower end PCs, and the mod is very self-explanatory. It just makes Titus look a lot more detailed and higher quality. There's also mods for all the other party members in 8K, and the Aeons, and a couple of random NPCs like Seymour and the Shoe Puff. And I saw some objects like the treasure chest, Blitz Ball, and Save Spears, for instance. But there isn't like a one texture mod that basically has all the characters in it, so you're gonna have to pick and choose which ones you basically want to download, and some of them might look a bit weird. Waka, for example, looks a lot more realistic, and I've seen a couple of ones that make Auron look kind of different as well, so you kind of can choose which ones look best and which ones you want to go for. But Titus is the character that you're going to be playing the most, so that's why I kind of chose it as here as the main one. But I do want to add that when they did these HD, you know, remasters of 10 and 10.2, they kind of put a lot of effort on the main characters and upscaling their textures, but they kind of left the NPCs more on that PS2 graphic level. So it's kind of good to see that we are seeing a bit more mods on these other characters as well. For the number 3, we have a mod called the AltMenus, and what it does, it changes out the game menu. And it changes out the background into this sort of a bedside, isle, beach, and it's very fitting to the thematic of Final Fantasy X. And it's just a simple change, but it just drastically gives out just a so different look to what is the original menu, which is perfect, by the way, but after you play the game so many times, you definitely want to change it. And this mod also has a couple of different variations. One that basically uses out these gradient purple boxes that the original game uses, but then the mod also comes along with its own like blue boxes essentially. So there's a couple of different variations that you can choose. One that kind of just changes out the background and keeps the things as they are, and then the one that basically changes out the boxes to blue and also the background as well. And there isn't really many other options for the menus right now. I saw one that basically uses the Blitzball menu as a background, and otherwise it's basically the same. But this is like a very small tweak, but it just gives out such a different type of presentation to the game, and I really like this mod, so I definitely recommend this for all of you out there. And then for the number 2, we have the Dark Aeon Texture mod, and what it essentially does, it allows you to change Yuna's summons to use the Dark Aeon textures, and you also have an alternative option top of that to change the Dark Aeon bosses to use the default Aeon textures as well. So you can basically choose your side to work on the dark side now. But there are a couple of caveats into this mod. It might have been from my own personal experience, or maybe I did something wrong with the installation of these textures, but I couldn't get all of these Aeons to essentially work. So the ones that I got working was Valifor, Ixion, Shiva, and Yojimbo, and one of the 3 Magus sisters all happened to have the Dark Aeon skin, but all the rest basically had the normal skins. It could have been this save file that I was basically using, which I downloaded from the internet, but it could be just that I maybe installed them wrong. So in case you're going to be using this mod, I would love to hear, did you actually get them all to work? But this is actually kind of like a cool change, because I do kind of like the aesthetical designs of the Dark Aeons, especially Ifrit and Valifor. I think they're drastically most different, but Yojimbo is probably my favorite. I mean, the base skin is also amazing. I just love this particular design of Yojimbo. But this is essentially one of those texture mods that I do highly recommend in case people want to have a bit of a different type of look. And finally we got number 1, and this is a mod called This Is Our Story, which is a X2 NPC retexture mod. So I decided to have at least one X2 mod in this list, and what it does, it changes out a lot of the textures for some of the minor characters or meaningful minor characters in X2, like Barthelo, Brother, Sid, Klasko, Donna, Elma, Isaru, Lucille, Maroda, Oaka, Pase, Rin, Shalinda, Once, etc. And some of them are pretty good, and some of them kind of look slightly ridiculous, like Rin, for instance. But once again, you have the option to choose which ones you're going to be installing, so the ones that you like can be using the old textures as well. And this also overlaps a bit with the textures for Final Fantasy X as well. So in case you're going to be installing this mod, this is also going to be affecting Final Fantasy X textures for these characters as well. Obviously not all of these are in that game, but in case you're just solely playing on X2, this is a mod you want to have, but maybe install it after you completed 10 and then going into 10.2, because I've read about some issues that may arise. And that is basically my top 5 list for Final Fantasy X and 10.2 mods. Obviously, I do want to add a couple of honorable mentions here for other mods that I didn't feature in this video. So, the Cataclysm has done a multitude of different 8K and 4K texture mods out there. There's also a mod by Hugh Dennings, which basically allows you to play with the LeBlanc Syndicate characters on X2. There's one mod that allows you to basically use Seymour in the game as well. So there are a lot of good mods, and you definitely can find a lot of them in Nexus Mod. I'm gonna leave all the necessary links down below so you can get started. In case you run into problems, you can always ask questions on Nexus Mods, obviously, or just me, and I'll try to answer best to my ability. But as always, thanks for watching, guys, and check out some other Final Fantasy content and other JRPG content on my channel. Make sure to subscribe and like. I will be seeing you next time on the next video. Cheers.